Today, I'm helping a viewer decide what to make with 100 yards of beautiful 100% angora rabbit hand spun on this episode of What Should I Make With This? Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needle Sands Midweek Ramble. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. Today's ramble is actually another episode of a new series called What Should I Make With This? This was a viewer-suggested series where I take your photo submissions of yarn that you have in your stash, yarn that's been in there for a while and you simply don't know what to do with it, and I help you come up with 5 solid suggestions of things you could make with that yarn. If you would like to get involved, email me at woolneedleshands@gmail.com and in the subject line put in "What should I make with this?" Drop me a photo of your yarn, give me all of the available information you can about the yarn that you have, especially in terms of how much you have, whether or not you're a knitter or a crocheter, and maybe a little bit about your skill level, and I will consider your email in an upcoming video just like this of what should I make with this. And for the case of today's video, we are working with Pam's yarn, and Pam's yarn is this that you see right here. It is 100 yards of beautiful, soft, 100% angora rabbit hand spun. Now, there is no information on the label, and Pam didn't provide any information as to the weight of this yarn in terms of whether it's fingering weight or sport weight or DK, but from what I can see in the photo and compared to other angora rabbit hand spun yarn that I found on the internet, and I dug through lots and lots of different yarns like this is most likely anywhere between a sport and a DK weight. And if it were a worsted weight, I think it would look different than what I see here. What I see here looks to me to be a little bit of a kind of a thick and thin between a sport and a DK, and no heavier than that. In some places in the yarn that I can see in the photo, it almost looks like a fingering weight. So I'm erring on the side of a sport weight to a DK weight, and I'm kind of searching for patterns, and especially considering this is only 100 yards, where gauge is not a huge issue and can probably be tweaked pretty easily. Now, what I want to do is show you really quickly the way that I go about searching for these patterns using Ravelry. This is going to be quick and dirty. If you would like to have a little bit more of an insight into how to narrow down pattern searches on Ravelry, definitely check out the video that I link to up here, or you can watch any of my episodes of Ravelry Roulette where I do all of that kind of right in front of you in real time. But what I did here is I went to the Ravelry pattern browse page that you can see in front of you here, and then I go over to this side column. This is your filter, okay? This is where you're going to designate all the different things that you're searching for in this particular pattern. Now, you could simply just go up here and type into the box angora rabbit hand spun sport weight, but it's not going to get you very far, because what that does is it takes the words that you put in there and it looks for those words within the context of the pattern. It's not really the criteria for the pattern more specifically. So we go over here to this filter. I'm going to look for patterns that have a photo. I want to see the photo and I want to be able to provide a photo here. I want to find patterns that are, in the case of this video, knitting, because this person is a knitter. I'm not going to do anything in terms of category. I want all of those categories available to me here. I'm not going to do anything in terms of availability other than, well, you know what, actually what you could do is you could click on free, purchase online, purchase in print, Ravelry download, and leave it at that, and just that way you're not getting anything that's discontinued. Or what you can do, and this is another option, do you see where it says how should these filters relate? I'm going to change this. I'm going to hit discontinued, and I'm going to change this section to exclude all of these. So what that's going to do is it's going to exclude anything that's been discontinued, because it's just kind of a waste of time if you're not going to be able to access the pattern. Okay, coming down here, I don't know the weight of this yarn. However, if I did know the weight of this yarn, I could select the weight here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to search fingering, sport, and DK, give myself a range of weights, just because when I look at the pictures of the yarn, I think it's a solid sport, ranging, like verging on a DK, maybe a little bit of a fingering in there, but this will just open up my search results and give me a little bit more to work with. Now, one of the most important things here is to include the yardage. Right down here is the yardage or the meterage, depending on what you're using. In the case of this video, I have yardage to work with. Now, I could select 0 to 150 yards, but I also want to come down here and customize my range from whatever 0 to 100 yards. Let's just do that. And I'm going to apply that, and then that will take into consideration the yardage when it goes to provide the results. Now I scroll back up here. You can see my results have been limited to 17,534 matches. It's avoiding anything that's discontinued, and it's taking into consideration those little aspects that filters that I included in there. And these results they're not guaranteed to work, but they're going to narrow it down so you're not having to muck through a bunch of stuff that is not going to work. And so that's how I do it for these videos. I kind of just use the information provided to me by the viewer who submits their yarn, and that's how I search out patterns to offer a suggestion. Moving forward, what are we going to make with Pam's 100 yards of beautiful angora handspun? Let's dive in to the first pattern I have here, and this is a pair of beautiful textured fingerless mitts. Now, the pattern name is Brazo. I'm assuming that's how you Brazo. I'm not exactly sure how you would pronounce this. It's by Kelly G. It's from Kelly G's Ravelry store. It is a sport weight pattern, a beautiful pair of cropped fingerless gloves. And when I say cropped, it's more like fingerless mitts here. When I say cropped, I mean that it sits really close to the hand. It doesn't come down the wrist all that far. It sits really close to the hand, almost like motorcycle, gloves, if you will. And I love these. They're beautiful. That really lovely lace texture, that cable that kind of winds up the front or the top of the hand. It's really beautiful. And I imagine these in a kind of nubby, thick and thin hand-spun yarn, just being really romantic and luxurious, but also kind of rustic. And I just think this would be perfect for a beautiful, soft, buttery, next to skin angora yarn. It's just perfect for this. It says Brazo is a pair of fingerless hand warmers featuring a meandering cable and just a touch of lace. They were named after the Brazo River in Alberta, a major tributary of the North Saskatchewan. How do I pronounce this? Let's hear it. Brazo. Okay. Brazo. Okay. If I had a French accent, Brazo. I don't know. It's French. Brazo is probably the best way I can pronounce this in my American accent. The cable that wanders up the front of the hand is inspired by the Brazo River in the North Saskatchewan. It's the boundary for Clearwater County, which is home to a flock of North Country Cheviot sheep, the source of wool for this pattern. Interesting. Knit from the fingers down. This pattern was designed to be easily adjustable. I missed that when I first saw this last time. Knit from the fingers down. That's new. Easily adjustable and includes multiple suggestions for making a pair that are just right for you. See, that's even a bonus here because you can adjust the length of the hand and onto the wrist depending on how much yarn you have, kind of like the benefit of knitting toe-up socks, if you will, which could be good here. It says that it's made, there's sizes small, medium, and medium large. And the yardage that we have being 100 yards would fall in between the small, medium, and the medium large. So if you were able to adjust the length of the hand or the wrist, because this is knit fingers down, you could probably finagle it so that it lands between 90 and 110 yards. It says down here, as this is a pattern made for handspun, the yardage reflected is the minimum amount required to complete the pattern. 90 yards for the small medium and 110 yards for the medium large reflects the total yardage to complete a pair that look like the ones reflected in the pattern photo. There are multiple ways to adjust the pattern included in the PDF so that you can customize your hand warmers to fit your yardage. And I also want to mention here too, this is great because you're working from the fingers down. Let's say if Pam were to get to the wrist of the gloves and she would be running out of yarn, sooner than she would like. This is a great opportunity to incorporate maybe a little bit of another yarn to create a nice contrasting cuff and, to make do with what you have. Something that's equally as luxurious, maybe something special, maybe little remnants from something that you've knit before, but there's an opportunity there for that. So I really love this. So this is the Brazo by Kelly G. Beautiful, and they were intended to be knit with handspun, which I think is great. Okay, the next pattern I have here is more of it's a one specific pattern, but it's kind of also a general idea of something to consider when you have such a small amount of yarn, like 100 yards. And the one I want to show you here is called the Millie Kerchief by Julie Weisenberger of Coco Knits. So now you can see here as we look at this that there are various different sizes of this particular pattern. You can see there's bigger ones, there's ones that wrap around the neck twice, there's little tiny ones. And so you can knit this in a range of yardages. And in fact, it mentions here it's knit with sport weight yarn, and it says it can be knit with anywhere from 100 to 300 yards of yarn, which is why I'm including this here. Because I feel like having a really nice little like neckerchief, something small that almost is there to add a little bit of an accessory to an outfit, something to add a little luxury to an outfit, something handmade with hand spun yarn that's kind of special, accoutrement, if you will. It would be beautiful in that angora hand spun yarn. So I'm sharing this with the intention of the smallest pattern, the smallest version of this being considered. So I love this. So when I go to the pattern website, it says here, knit the Millie kerchief with any yarn, any needles, any gauge. The Millie kerchief is perfect for those precious skeins or partial skeins in your stash that have been waiting a special project. Just kind of like what we're doing here. Since you knit it by proportion, you can knit with confidence, knowing you will have enough yarn to finish. That was kind of my question here, is depending on how it's knit, if you stop at just like when you're done and you have no more yarn, will you have a proportionate kerchief? And it sounds like that's actually what this is, the purpose of this, which is really great. So I got that information by going to the actual pattern. You can do that by visiting the pattern page from the Ravelry page. But this could be a really great one for something special. A special skein of yarn with a really nice special accessory to add to your wardrobe. And I think it is just, it's precious. My idea here is this one. This little blue one looks like it would probably be the size approximately of what Pam would be able to knit with the yarn that she has. And that's also depending on the weight of the yarn. So if the yarn she has actually, errs on the side of being heavier, she can get more size for the amount that she has. So something to consider. I think it's adorable. I have yet to knit a kerchief like this, and I really need to get on that because it's so inspiring. I love that. Okay, pattern number 2, the Millie kerchief. Okay, this next one I thought was fun. It might be a little bit of a stretch for such a lovely yarn. Not that I don't think these are lovely. I really, really do. When I share things like this, it's because I feel like sometimes the best place to utilize really luxurious small bits of yarn are on noticeable accessories, things that are surprising to see. Things that are functional, but that when you add a touch of elegance to them, I don't know, it just makes them that much more special. I don't know if that makes sense. So these are called the Autumn Ankle Warmers by Leah from Kiss Kiss Rhinestones. And I think they're adorable. I especially love them here with these Doc Marten creeper shoes. I think this looks awesome. I think this could look really lovely with a pair of like moccasins or even some sandals to be, I don't know, whatever that would be. But I love these. And the idea of something like this in a really kind of thick and thin, rustic, but luxurious Angora yarn, I think that's amazing. I don't know why, I just love the idea of that. They are a small little knit. You can accomplish these with 98 yards of yarn, and this is a DK weight pattern. If the yarn that Pam has on hand kind of is a thick and thin, she might actually be able to get more yardage or more size for the yardage that she has, but the opposite is true if it happens to be more on the thin side. So this is just a suggestion. I love these. I love something functional like this and something very accessory-like in a luxurious, artisanal, rustic yarn, if you will. And if it were Angora, like, hello. Yeah, Angora ankle warmers? That just sounds amazing. I love it with these stockings and these shoes. Of course, this is definitely a style thing. If somebody would even wear something like this, I don't know. I had to include this. I had to include this because I love them. And it also makes me realize that you could take the same idea and just create a really nice, luxurious pair of like wrist cuffs. No hand portion, just cuffs that you wear over sleeves to give you a little extra coziness. So that's an idea there as well. And this is a free download. Whatever, you can't beat it, right? I think it's great. So those are the Autumn Ankle Warmers. I imagine these in a really pretty thick and thin Angora yarn, and I love it. I really do. Okay, I feel like I would be remiss if I did not include a headband or some kind of a headscarf in this suggestion for Pam and her 100 yards of Angora yarn, because it is such a great place or a great way to use up a really small quantity of yarn, especially something as lovely as angora and this yarn in particular. Again, it's an accessory that's very visible, and because the yarn that Pam has here is a very neutral color, you can really add a touch of luxury without adding anything ostentatious or loud. And I love that kind of luxury, in my opinion. It's just subtle, and I love it. So this is the Pin Me Up Headband by Knititude, or Chantel Mayagashima, and it is adorable. Now, this one that you see here was knit using Lion Brand LB Collection jeans, so it's a denim yarn, and it's a DK weight, and it uses anything from 40 to 50 yards. She could perhaps get 2 headbands out of that one skein that she has. But look how cute this is. I imagine that knit in this yarn being so soft with a really lovely halo, such a nice headband that you could wear in a casual way or wear it in a more dressed up way, and it would be super chic. Now, I think this is knit almost like a necktie would be knit in one long piece, and then you tie it together to create the headband. That's kind of my thought. Let's go down here. It's free, by the way. It says, have 20 grams of worsted or DK weight lying around the house? Want to feel your inner 50s pinup girl vibe come out? Want a pattern that's beginner friendly, easy to whip up, and fast? Introducing the Pin Me Up Headband. Super simple, and the pattern is free. 17 grams of leftover Lion Brand LB Collection cotton jeans. Don't forget to tag me in all your finished product. Okay, that's all it says here. But it is a free pattern, and I think it's really sweet. I love that look, and I imagine it with the beautiful halo of an angora yarn just being really, really cute and perfect when you don't have a whole lot of yarn to work with. And I think if you were to knit 2, or even knit one that were even a little wider, or something that were wide and narrowed out so that you get that wide piece at the back of the head and then it narrows out where you tie it, you could kind of modify this because it looks like it's just knit with garter stitch. I love that. I mean, and it's free. You really can't beat that. When you're working with such a small amount of yarn, you're really obviously, very limited in what you can make. Okay, so that is the Pin Me Up Headband by Knititude. This next one, I couldn't help myself, and it has to be included. Now, when all else fails and you can't think of something to knit with 100 yards of beautiful angora hand-spun, what do? Well, in my opinion, you knit a teeny tiny bunny. And this is by Claire Garland, and it is probably the cutest teeny tiny bunny I have ever laid eyes on. How adorable is this? Now, why would somebody want to spend their time knitting a little teeny tiny bunny with angora handspun that cost them $30 for 100 yards? Let me tell you, these little types of things, when you keep them in places that you are often in your home, like maybe next to your bed, or like, in your bathroom where you get ready in the morning, or even in the kitchen, or next to your chair where you sit and knit, little soft, pleasant things like this that you can pick up in your hand, give it a little squish. It does so much more to kind of like your mental well-being in that moment. It can calm your nerves. It's just nice to look at. I think there's so much more to these little creations than I originally thought before I had made my emotional support chicken, which is obviously much larger than this. But I understand the value in having little things like this around. So that's why. I just think it is the most precious little bunny. And if you have a little one who would really love something like this, that's another special thing to do with something like that. I just think it's really precious. And when you can't think of anything else and nothing else just seems to fit, and you have the angora hand spun, why not? It's absolutely adorable. And I was thinking that, like you'll notice in some of these pictures, the little ears look like they have pink inside the ears, or maybe their fur has some various different colors. One way that you could do that is you could add a thread or maybe a little bit of embroidery floss in with the yarn in those little areas to give it the extra color, because Pam's yarn is all one color. You can even go back and do kind of applied stitches afterwards to add a little bit of color in those areas. Or you can just do a bunny kind of like this one here that is all one color overall. Oh, and I just think it's the cutest thing. And I almost think there's a few different versions of the bunny, maybe not. Oh, it's just so precious. It says here, My smallest yet. Well, not as small as those itchy ones I put on the top of the crochet tea cozies once upon a time. But as far as a complete knitting pattern with short rows, pick-up stitches, in other words, knitted entirely in one piece, join as you go with the tiniest of seams to sew, it's my smallest yet. Choose your yarns too. I naturally knitted with my favorite drops yarn, Sky and Kid Silk held together, but any soft, fluffy, baby type yarn will be perfect, 4-ply or DK, and if you want yours felted, similar to mine, also choose pure wool or alpaca. And no toy eyes this time, so suitable for small ones as long as your yarn is good for them. So sweet. And I just think that based on the look of this, it would be perfect for using a hand-spun yarn like the angora because it's already super soft. It's angora, which comes from a rabbit. That's appropriate. And I love it. So that is the Teeny Tiny Bunny by Claire Garland. I just can't get enough of that. That is the most adorable little thing ever. I couldn't help myself. I really just couldn't help myself. And those are some patterns that I think would be great when you have 100 yards of angora hand-spun yarn and you're not really sure what to do with it. I think of all of these, if I had this yarn and I had to pick a pattern right now to knit with this yarn from everything I shared with you here, my initial instinct would be to knit the Brazo fingerless mittens, just because I feel like it's not only is it functional, I feel like that lace motif is really beautiful. Now, I would say that one thing that would steer me away from that is the halo of this yarn is pretty intense and maybe that lace and cable motif might get lost. But part of me thinks that that subtlety and like nuance it would lend to these mitts would really actually be quite lovely. That would be the one I would go for immediately. And I think my runner-up would be the Millie kerchief, and then in third place would be the Teeny Tiny Bunny. But that is, in my opinion, 5 solid ideas for what Pam could knit with this gorgeous hand-spun angora yarn that she has. I hope you guys enjoyed that and took value from today's video and got some ideas for yourself. If you enjoyed yourself, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and definitely subscribe. Click that bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday. And until I see you for Sunday's episode of the podcast, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.